Good evening once again, everyone. Apopka High School welcomes you to Joe Sterling Gymnasium for Game 21 of the 14th Annual Earl Graham Metro vs. Florida Challenge presented by St. Germain Chiropractic, Burn Fat Orlando, and Advent Health. The event that puts the reputation of the Orlando Metro Conference on the line against some of the best talent in the greater Central Florida area. And representing that talent in this Game 21, wearing the black jerseys, visitors on the scoreboard from Lake Mary High School. Please welcome the Rams. And wearing the white jerseys, home on the scoreboard, representing the Orlando Orange County Metro Conference from Lake Buena Vista High School, please welcome the Vipers. Let's meet the teams. We'll begin with our guests from Lake Mary. And we'll start at guard with 6'3" junior, number 3, Tyler Shank. At guard, 5'11" senior, number 5, Ruben Cortez. At guard, 6' junior, number 11, Owen Sanoa. At forward, 6'2" sophomore, number 21, Jamarius Jones. And finally, for the Rams, at forward, 6'3" senior, number 22, Jack Schulz-Perry. And now let's meet the starting lineup for the Lake Buena Vista Vipers. Starting with senior number 2, Travis Lyge. Senior number 3, Jordan Deja. Senior number 5, Ronaldo Alcantara. Senior number 23, Darwin Huerfano. And finally for the Vipers, junior number 24, Alessandro Ferracci. The head coach of the Rams in his 3rd year at Lake Mary, Sedarius Roundtree. And for the Vipers in his 4th year at Lake Buena Vista, Gerald Scott. The officials for tonight's game are from the Central Florida Officials Association. Here in Orlando, we thank them for their dedicated service to our high school athletic programs and join them along with our participating schools, reminding everyone to make great sportsmanship a part of this and every athletic competition. For those of you here in the arena, we want to remind you that if you have friends and family not able to join us in person and they are in Lake Mary on the other side of Orlando or anywhere in the world, you can just send them a link to join us live online, nfhsnetwork.com or the NFHS Network app, or YouTube is absolutely free. Just search Metro VSFL on the YouTube app on your favorite computer, smart TV, or mobile device. You can also find all of our live stream links on our website, metrovsfl.com. And we want to welcome those of you who have done just that, joining us here at Joe Sterling Gymnasium. My name is Mark Barchi, the voice of the Metro vs. Florida Challenge and the media director and operations manager here. I am joined at this game by Neil Fisher from the Apopka Chief, ready to finish up day 3, almost to the 3/4 mark.
And we are underway for game number 7. 21st game, as Mark just said. And this match is Lake Buena Vista against Lake Mary. And before I forget, Mark, as always, an excellent job of doing the pregame introductions. Nobody left behind, and everybody feels good. So, Lake Buena Vista, of course, no longer the newest school, but still only in its 4th season. Newest school in the Metro Conference in Orange County as far as public schools. And they are in the white on defense. Lake Mary, of course, one of the more tradition-rich, older schools in Central Florida, coming out of Lake Mary, located in Seminole County. Despite a 15-13 record, they did qualify for the playoffs last year. We get our first points of the game. Floating in the deuce is Shank.
Tyler Shank puts the Rams on the board.
2-0 lead. So 15-13 last year, but they still made the playoffs, and they lost in that first round, regional quarterfinalists. They are a Class 7A District 2 member, a record of 2-3 in this tournament. So again, I did not look at the schedule because it was last year as doing Windex work, cleaning those glass. And
put back
making
by
those
Travis Lejeune.
Is Lejeune. It usually means that it's a very challenging schedule when you get into the playoffs and you're just a couple games over 500 as Lake Buena Vista goes back to work. Oh, beautiful passing through the paint all the way down.
Jack Schulz-Perry adds 2 for the Rams.
4-2 lead now.
And yeah, Neil, it's interesting now that we've gone to the Max Preps power ranking model, or at least some facsimile thereof, that you see that happen sometimes. You can have a team that has a very strong record, but maybe wasn't a district champion, miss the playoffs, while a team that was sub or near 500 does make the playoffs. And again, it comes down to that strength of schedule. The power rankings formula is proprietary and is largely a black box, but we know that the major tenets of it are your own record, your opponent's records, and your opponent's opponent's records, mixed into some sort of secret family recipe that the FHSAA tweaks modestly. The FHSAA has a kind of homebrew version of that formula that usually yields similar, if not the same results, but they can be a little bit different. And the reason for that, most people believe, is probably due to the FHSAA eliminating margin of victory from the formula so that teams are not incentivized to run up the score in any kind of meaningful way. And so, again, that now determines how you get into the postseason. And the reason that we bring that up is that even though we're only sitting in week 2 and it seems like the playoffs are an eternity away, we're thinking about February, these games count. They matter. These are regular season games. We are out of the preseason now. These do count on the record. And if you play a strong team and win, it can make the difference, particularly if you don't get your district championship and you're depending on one of those wild card positions. Winning against a powerful team here in the Metro versus Florida Challenge might be the thing that puts you over the edge, or if you were already in the playoffs, it might be the thing that gets you home court advantage. As we roll in a 3, that's Owen Sanoa from downtown.
7-2, 3 minutes in. And so getting back to Lake Mary, of course, Mark just explaining why these games mattered even though they were only in the second week. Lake Mary actually qualified for the playoffs second consecutive season last season as doing Windex work and making the withdrawal.
Second chance basket for Alessandro Ferracci.
So this will Lake Mary going for a third consecutive playoff berth. And they returned 7 players who were in the rotation, and all 7 started at one time or another last year. Look for the captain Jack Schulz-Perry, Jordan Houston, Jamarius Jones, and they seek a balanced attack on offense, and their identity is a disruptive brand of defense. Looking at the other side, Lake Buena Vista, of course, as I said, they're no longer the newest school in the Metro Conference or OCPS. Innovation opening today has scored the deuce. And
that's Darwin Huerfano for 2.
But still only 4 years old along with Horizon. They are Class 6A District 7. Last season they went 9-17, which again does not sound like much, nothing to write home in itself, but it is the best record they had, which was 3 seasons up till then.
Fouls called against Vipers number 23. Darwin Huerfano, that's his first, the team's first. And that will send the Rams to the free throw line. That's number 22, Jack Schulz-Perry, shooting 2.
So Lake Buena Vista 1-4 in this event. They are 1 of 5 teams, as we mentioned before, playing 2 games this year, or in this event. And Coach Scott, Gerald Scott, who's been the only coach they've ever known, describes this as a senior group of mixed bag of 4 returning varsity players. 2 were starters and an influx of 7 new seniors, 11 in total. And they consider their strengths to be togetherness, toughness, grit, and hard work.
stolen layup courtesy of Ruben Cortez. So worth noting is that no matter what happens here, the Metro teams are going to go into the final day with the lead. They're currently up 11-9. So the worst that could happen if Lake Mary wins would be they'd be 11-10. As we get a stolen layup again, this from Ruben Cortez.
12-6 now, a couple of turnovers from Lake Buena Vista on consecutive possessions. That full court defense doing its job.
Yeah, Lake Mary setting up kind of a wall at half court, and the Vipers break it this time, but it's been pretty effective on the last few possessions. And now a little bunny jumper by Alessandro Ferracci for two.
Cuts the lead to 12-8, just under 3 minutes now. Lake Buena Vista also going with a full court defense. Nice looking play, but couldn't complete the deal. Too hard. That was Schenk. And now Lake Buena Vista had an opportunity to get a couple of baskets in a row. And instead, it's drained the rain.
For Ruben Cortez. And we'll pause for a Viper timeout. Full timeout called by Lake Buena Vista.
And your records, Lake Mary is 1-2. 2-1, defeating Winter Springs, Flagler, Palm Coast, and losing to Foundation Academy. Lake Buena Vista comes in at 2-0. Again, they beat Trinity Christian Academy in this event earlier in celebration on the 22nd to open their regular season.
The 14th annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge is presented by St. Germain Chiropractic, offering the best non-invasive healthcare services in the Central Florida, Orlando area. With most insurance accepted, they can treat your back and neck pain, headaches, auto accidents, slip and fall injuries, musculoskeletal conditions, and more. Remember, when in pain, call St. Germain.
15-8 lead. Lake Mary has led throughout. They took the lead 4-0. We've only had two ties. And this is the largest lead of the game for Lake Mary, again, against the Lake Buena Vista Vipers in only their third year. Lake Buena Vista with the ball, though, as we drop under 2.5 minutes, first quarter.
And Neil, you and I know this scenario quite well. You and I have been the house announcers down the street at Wekiva as we get a layup by Travis Legine for the Vipers. Of course, Scott Williams, the inaugural head coach at Wekiva, and that is where this Metro versus Florida event originated, as we get a 3 for Jaden Aristide. And Wekiva, of course, is now in its 18th year, and you and I have been there all 18 of those seasons, and we remember the first 2, 3, 4 seasons where you're trying to build a program and get some momentum together, and it can be rough going at times. Requires a lot of persistence as we get a Rams foul called against number 22, Jack Schulz-Perry. That's his first personal foul, the team's first.
Yeah, and I would like to point out there is a similarity, an exact similarity. Again, I mentioned Lake Buena Vista went 9-17 last year, which is nothing to write home about. Doesn't really stick out, obviously, but it's the best record they had through their first 3 years. Wekiva actually, like you said, it took a few years, but they did go from 2 wins to 9 wins between their first and second seasons, the same exact amount. So I know it might have taken Lake Buena Vista one more year, but they wound up with both with 9 victories, a 7-victory increase.
Ronaldo Alcantara through traffic for 2. The strike that is Ruben Cortez.
So a 20-10 lead, Lake Mary doubling Lake Buena Vista, and now they'll have a chance to further go past the double the amount. 1:13 remaining. Lake Buena Vista having trouble keeping possession. That's 6 turnovers through the first roughly 7 minutes. And, of course, as I mentioned in the previews, when I was going through the previews, Lake Mary, that's their identity, is defense first. Clanks off the front of the rim, tipped out, picked up by Alcantara back at the other end. Lake Buena Vista sets up and tipped. Bad pass at the other end. Oh, could have been devastating for Lake Buena Vista. Lake Mary, little self-infliction with that bad pass, but it doesn't hurt them as far as getting the shot off. The tray attempted by Arsteele.
And then Houston, right place, right time. Now back to the paint. Bennett doesn't have anything. He pops out.
Second consecutive tray, not finding the mark. But also the second consecutive time Lake Mary gets the offensive rebound. And then the
foul called
self-destructive.
against Joshua Zoll, his first, the team's second.
And then the self-destructive penalty. That's a turnover. So if you're new to this event, it's the Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. It's been around for 15 seasons. This is the 14th edition. Of course, it was not held during the pandemic. As we get a held ball with 15 seconds remaining, every member of the Metro Conference, which now is 23 teams, takes on a non-member, a.k.a. the Florida Contingency. At the end of 28 games, we'll play the last 7 tomorrow. We add up which side wins the most. Metro Conference schools are all public high schools and located in Orange County. As 5 seconds remaining, the seventh turnover.
Pass.
Lake Mary, one last shot. They just throw it up. That was Aristide taking
That
his
takes
second
us
attempt.
to the end of the first quarter. It's an 8-point advantage for the Rams at the end of 8 minutes. 20-12 is your score at the first break here in game 21 of the 14th annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge, presented by St. Germain Chiropractic, Bernfat Orlando, and Advent Health. We'll take this opportunity to thank our friends at Bernfat Orlando. Speaking of the Metro versus Florida Challenge, they challenge you to step on the scale every day with their money-back guarantee. If you don't lose weight in the first 10 days, they'll refund your money. Give them a call at 855-889-THIN. That's 855-889-THIN to get the tools and guidance you need to achieve better health and your weight loss goals with an inviting atmosphere, friendly staff, and programs to take charge of your weight and your life. 855-889-THIN. Back to live action here at Joe Sterling Gymnasium, home of the Apopka Blue Darters. One of 3 sites to have ever hosted the Metro versus Florida Challenge. It started out at Wekiva, which was where Scott Williams was when the event was conceived. It followed him to Apopka High School about 10, 11 years ago. And then it has since now split its time between Apopka and Lake Highland Prep since the death of Earl Graham, and that was another place that he made a big impact, as we had Joshua Zoll with the layup.
22-10 lead now for Lake Mary. And a chance to build on that. It'll look like a defensive back there. Sanoa just stepping right in front of that pass, and so Lake Mary sets up. We're about a minute in, and speaking of Sanoa, he'll take the long-range tray. No dice. Clanks off that heel, skying for the rebound is Legene. He did a nice job. And a whistle, 1 minute, 1 second into the second quarter.
Foul called against Jordan Houston. At the line. This is Benjamin Rivas. The correct score is 22-10. I've just got to get those 2 errant points that snuck on the scoreboard at the end of the last quarter. Let's see. There we go.
And now coming into the game for Lake Buena Vista is Jordan Damija.
Basket by Ronaldo Alcantara.
So Alcantara cuts into that lead. Now down to 10, 22-12, early in the second quarter. 7th game of 7 on day 3. for this event, the Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge, and our ref immediately signaled that there was a foul there.
Travis Lejeune is called on his first personal foul, the team's first of this period.
So Lake Mary retains possession. Inbound pass, probably ill-advised, as there was a split opening to pass to Davis Bennett, but it quickly closed. Two Vipers crossing in front of Bennett, and they actually got away with that bad pass, Lake Mary, that is. Each team with one foul, and so Lake Mary sets up. Back to work they go with that 10-point lead. Sweeping through the lane and making the withdrawal, Bennett.
Davis Bennett for two.
Lead back up to double, 24-12. Lake Buena Vista getting through that full court defense, and the quick shot from beyond the arc on the left side. It's Demeja, who came in on the last possession, and probably not a smart foul from Lake Mary's perspective either.
Foul's called against Joshua Zool. That's his second personal, the team's fourth, and the line shooting now will be Jordan Demeja. And in fact, he'll be shooting three. That was behind the arc.
Who was the foul line?
On one? I think it was on one. One has two fouls, is that right? I think it was one.
So this is also not a smart foul because the likelihood that Demeja was going to make it was low, but it was also a three-point attempt. So he gets three fouls and free throws, and he makes all three of his attempts.
I believe it was 2 out of 3.
Or 2 out of 3. So that cuts the lead back down to 10. Now one-on-one, ball comes loose. That's Lejeune giving all kinds of problems to the Lake Mary offense, and it pays dividends.
Vipers ball.
Only the fourth turnover for Lake Mary, who again is looking to go to the FHSA playoffs for a third straight year. They lost in the first round last year. Now Lake Buena Vista through the middle, getting the ball. That was Hurafano who makes the withdrawal after slicing the lane.
Darwin Huerfano for 2. 4 points for him tonight.
And the lead back into single digits, first time in a long time. It was in the first quarter. Lake Mary coming back, they attack. Almost the same play, sweeping through the lane.
Aristille.
Lead back up to 10. And now Lake Mary gets the turnover. That was Jones stepping in front. Nice job of passing that ball, finding their spots. Open man, Aristal. No dice, but Windex work. And the second attempt does not fall.
Aristile took a dive after that three, and officials didn't buy it.
3 offensive rebounds now. Aristile kicks it back out. Open look. Decides not to take it. Bennett said he drives the lane. And
Davis
off
Bennett with the second chance basket, and we'll pause for a 30-second timeout. 30-second timeout requested by the Vipers.
And so there you see why coaches are always harping on getting offensive rebounds. Could have had a 4-point swing if Lake Buena Vista gets the defensive rebound and scores at the other end. 28-16, 4:49, second quarter, Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium.
We'll take this opportunity to thank our presenting sponsor, Advent Health, Central Florida's #1 trusted ER. Sometimes life can take an unexpected turn. When it does, know that the area's most preferred ER is nearby. Our elite team of specially trained physicians and critical care nurses are available 24/7 to care for any of life's thrills and spills. And we offer the most ER locations, so Central Florida's #1 ER is always within reach. Find your Advent Health ER at myclosester.com.
And back to live action with the 28-16 lead for Lake Mary over Lake Buena Vista, who has possession, and that quickly is cut into. Darwin Huerfano draining the rain. And that cuts the lead back down to 10, 28-18 at the other end. Lake Mary, no hesitation. Up and over, Sanoa making the withdrawal.
Owen Sanoa for 2.
So Lake Mary, we were tied at 2-2. Lake Mary then dropped 6 points in a row. They got the lead up to 10 points, and it's ranged from those 10 points down to all the way up to 14 since about midway through the first quarter. And now a chance to get it back up to 14 or even 15 if they drop the tray. Nice passing, seen this the whole game. Beautiful perimeter passing. They take their, wait for their turn, wait for the aisle to open, to sweep through, attack. And from the corner, splash!
3 for Davis Bennett. 7 points for him tonight, and now a comfortable 15-point lead for the Rams.
Largest of the game. 1-on-1, right wing extended as we drop to 3.5 minutes at halftime. This is the last game of day 3. 4 days making up this event, 7 games on each day. As crashing the boards, nice job by Eric McGee, one of 11 seniors on this Lake Buena Vista squad. Now doubled up into the corner, back into the paint, and that was Huerfano trying to shoot it, and he ran into Tyler Scheck's hand, the 6'3" junior guard.
Checking into the game for the Rams, number 22, Jack Schulz-Perry, and for the Vipers, number 21, Tyrus Mosley.
Inbound pass, Lake Buena Vista maintains possession, but intercepted. That was Sanoa running it down like a defensive back over the shoulder. He gets it back in the corner for his efforts. No dice. Kareem's off that rebound. Give the rebound to Mosley. And now Lake Buena Vista walking the ball up. That's Lejeune, who I believe has played all 4 years with Lake Buena Vista. That name does sound familiar, going back to their first appearance in 2020. And as a matter of fact, Mark, of course, you called it. Did the player introductions. It was their very first game they ever played was here at the Metro versus Florida Challenge.
That's right. A lot of times it is. I believe Innovation did have one game before, and it varies because the FHSAA schedule, the way that it divides the calendar year and the way the OCPS calendar divides the year is slightly different. And so some years the Metro versus Florida Challenge is literally week 1 of the regular season, so nobody has done anything other than their preseason classics, as we get a jump shot from Travis Lejeune. And then other years it is week 2, where you do have a week of opportunity to play regular season games before we get to this tournament. But one way or the other, Metro versus Florida Challenge is always going to be very early season. There was actually 1 year, or 2 years, excuse me, where we had it on MLK weekend because Thanksgiving week shifted into week 0. We actually were in the preseason week. And you can't do an event like this during preseason because the format of this, even if you don't care, as we get a basket by Darwin Huerfano as we pause for a Viper timeout, full timeout called by Lake Buena Vista. But even if you don't care whether the games count on the record or not, it doesn't matter because an event of this format doesn't qualify as a preseason classic. You literally couldn't do it legally. And so we had no choice but to move it to MLK weekend. But now it is back where it belongs in Thanksgiving, and as long as the calendar stays this way, that's where it's going to be. We'll take this opportunity to remind you that if you've not already done so, you can download our complete full-color program. We went paperless a few years ago, so we no longer hand those books out at the admission table, but we do still produce the program. It is full color online, has team photos, season previews, and rosters for all 50 teams who are participating, and we put the teams that are playing against each other on the same page so that you can follow along whether you're watching us online at home or we're here in the gym. We also have the history of the event, the complete records all the way back to the beginning, so you can see how the Metro Conference's fortunes have risen and fallen over that time. and we have some rankings in there as well, player rankings as well as team rankings from our preseason polling sources. You can get all of that on our website, Metro VSFL. That's Metro versus Florida, metrovsfl.com. And just click on the link to download the 2024 PDF program.
So back to live action, 1:38 before halftime. Lake Mary leading Lake Buena Vista. Lake Mary representing the Florida contingency. Lake Buena Vista in its fourth year, beginning its fourth season, representing the Metro Conference. And it's been a Lake Mary show since the beginning, although there they make the mistake with the turnover.
And I saw Schulz-Perry signal to his teammate there. It's like, nope, that was me. Sorry.
6-0 run after we were tied at 2-2. And if you're new to this event, 28 games, 7 days, 7 games, 4 days. Metro Conference team, they plays a non-member or a Florida contingency. No dice, ripping down the rebound. Good Windex work there for Tyler Shent. And at the end of the 28 games, we add up which side wins the most. Of course, Scott Williams, who is sitting to our left on the far wall. He was the coach of the Wekiva Mustangs at the time when he came up with the idea. And he moved up here to Apopka 7 years late after the end of his 7th season. And we play at the Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium as at the other end. Nice move. Withdrawal.
Tyrus Mosley on the layup.
And he got the idea based on what they do in college conferences. I know at one point the ACC and Big Ten play. They don't do that anymore. But it's the same idea in those matchups. You have the first place teams from the previous season play each other, the second place teams, and so on. And again, we don't actually do first place versus second place as we get the splash.
For Owen Sanoa.
And the lead now 36-24. But Coach Williams does try to match the teams up in terms of for as much competitiveness as possible. So can they score before the end of the half? No. Basket does not count.
No basket. The buzzer had sounded, and that takes us to halftime. It is a dozen-point advantage. 3-2 your score, 36-24 technically, as we head into the locker rooms. At intermission of our 21st game out of 28 here at the 14th Annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge, presented by St. Germain Chiropractic, Burnfat Orlando, and Advent Health.
And so, as we go to half, just a quick reminder of why we do this. So you get some strong matchups to give teams a look at how they perform under pressure. Provides an opportunity for Central Florida teams to gather centrally for matchups they may not otherwise be able to schedule. The basketball fans, thank you for listening to us, and we hope you enjoy the broadcast as much as we do bring it to you. It gives you an opportunity to watch and be involved with a high-profile event, and you can get excited about your team from the very beginning of the regular season. It's a great value to fans. You can get to see 28 games for an economical admission fee. And, of course, for the players, they get valuable exposure by the college folks, coaches, scouts, and media outlets. So a 6-0 run after the game was tied 2-2. Lake Mary took the lead, and they've been leading since then. A very economic and systematic increase of that lead. 36-24 at halftime from Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium on the campus of Apopka. Mark?
Welcome back to Joe Sterling Gymnasium, home of the Popka Blue Darters. The Vipers have the opening possession of the third quarter. And we are underway. So far, it's certainly not a runaway, but the Rams clearly showing command of the rhythm and flow of this game. They've been extremely effective on defense in the first half. And there you see an example of Lake Buena Vista's woes as Alessandro Ferracci sends one into the cheap seats. Pace of the game slowing down just a little bit from where it was in the first half. Of course, it would be hard to compete with the pace that we saw in our previous game. We've had some high-octane games being played here at Joe Sterling Gymnasium, and now we get the heat turned up a little bit. That's Tyler Schenk for three. This is the seventh and final game of day 3. We've still got 7 more coming up for you tomorrow. Foul is called against Rams, number 22, Jack Schulz-Perry. That's his second personal foul, the team's first of this period. "28 games, which I believe, as I scan through my recent memory, is at least a tie, if not a record, for the number of games in a single event. I know we had 28 scheduled last year, but it dropped to 26 due to some last-minute dropouts on the schedule. So this year we do end up with 28. An event that started out as a 2-day event. It used to just be the Friday and Saturday. After Thanksgiving, it extended to Wednesday several years ago, and then finally to Tuesday. As Owen Sanoa steals a layup for the Rams. And that really has been a story of how we got to the differential we got to in the first half. It's then those unrequited baskets as we get a Darwin Huerfano picking up 2 for the Vipers. And Neil, as I was just saying, what we're seeing so far here in the third quarter is largely an echo of what we saw in the first half, that Lake Mary is creating opportunities, creating turnovers, and capitalizing on them in transition quickly, while the Vipers, while they're not necessarily playing poorly, they have some ball handling issues where they have a few unforced errors and just don't seem to have quite the speed that Lake Mary has.
Yeah, you say the quality of their play is not quite as efficient as Lake Mary. And again, that's going to have a cumulative effect if it continues. Through the lane with the greatest of ease, the up and over move.
Travis Lejeune down the paint for 2.
So there's something that Lake Buena Vista can build their, hang their hat on, so to speak. Just as quickly at the other end. Oh, and a good look for the 3 from Schenk. Doesn't get it. And so now Lejeune down into the corner. The launch. Oh, that's an air ball by a good 5 feet.
Now quickly to the other end. Splash! Owen Sanoa for 3. That's 2 downtown baskets he's hit since we came back from intermission. And he's probably, if I had to guess, right now, your Vegas betting markets would probably have him for MVP. Beautiful pass. That's Sanoa to Jack Schulz-Perry. So when Sanoa is not the one scoring, he's the one enabling. Now trying to get down the paint. Darwin Orfano picks up 2 for the Vipers, and we'll pause for a Viper timeout.
Yeah, Coach Scott jumped up quickly, wanted that timeout.
30-second timeout called by Lake Buena Vista.
4 consecutive points, and what was a lead alternating between 10 and 14 is now up to 16. Coach Scott, I'm sure, was thinking about that, not wanting this momentum by Lake Mary to turn into a roller coaster. 46-30, 4:26, Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium.
And it's worth noting that that is the penultimate timeout for Lake Buena Vista. Obviously, for good reason, Coach Scott has had to make some tweaks and adjustments, maybe more than he would have liked at this point in the game. But so the timeouts are all well spent, but he's only got 1 more to work with, trailing by 16. So again, the game is certainly not out of reach. We're not anywhere close to running clock or mercy rule or anything like that. It's just at some point, the Vipers have got to stop the bleeding. You got to start making up ground instead of losing ground. Otherwise, fourth quarter is going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, Lake Mary at this point with that 16-point lead is in the position of being able to. They can match Lake Buena Vista result for result.
And there's a momentum builder as Cortez picks up the steal, and Ruben Cortez has the second chance basket.
So that's a nice start for Lake Buena Vista, but now they got to come up with a stop, and this is my point. If Lake Mary comes back and scores, and there was a slap in there, you could hear that all the way over here at the scorers table, Cortez driving the lane.
Travis Lejeune is calling his second personal foul, the team's first of this quarter, and I heard
Lake Mary can afford to just trade points or trade stops.
Yeah, I heard Coach Scott out of the corner of my ear shouting, "Why?" at Lejeune there. He was obviously making a play on the ball, but he missed. And caught his wrist instead. And the tray is an air ball from Schulz-Perry. So now the Vipers will take the ball back, and Lake Mary settles into a half court. At this point, they really don't need to burn up the energy running full court.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to what I was saying. Lake Mary's in a position where they can trade what the results possession for possession.
Tyler Schenk on a transition layup for the Rams.
They don't have to expend energy, at least not as much as Lake Buena Vista. Lake Buena Vista has to be the aggressor now. So 3 minutes remaining, third quarter. Kazmaj, the 6-footer. Nothing doing there in Lake Mary. The tray clanks off the right side. Rebound back to the other side, now to the front. That was Schenk. And they get the offensive rebound again. Wide open for the tray. Schulz-Perry.
And now finally, the Rams back off on that boxing out that they've been doing so well.
3 offensive rebounds on that last possession. And they'll try it again with that 16-point lead. And nothing but backboard in the net.
Yeah, that's Tyler Schenk picks up 2. As you saw Jordan Demeja plant his feet there, but then Schenk just walked right around him. Or dribbled, I should say. 30-second timeout requested by the Rams. We invite you, if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Our channel name is Metro VSFL. Even if you're here in Joe Sterling Gymnasium and not listening to us online, maybe you want to listen to us tomorrow or next year or the year after that. So make sure you subscribe to our channel so you get notifications when we post new videos and we're ready to go live. It doesn't cost you anything at all, and the more subscribers we get, the more features we unlock on our YouTube channel. So we appreciate your help in supporting the Metro versus Florida Challenge at no cost to yourself. Back to live action here at Joe Sterling Gymnasium, home of the Blue Darters, who will be playing tomorrow I should also note that tomorrow's games will open with a ladies event. It's a tradition that Scott Williams started several years ago after the event had moved to Apopka. Wanted to make sure that Apopka's women's team got some exposure through this event as well. As we get a foul called against the Rams, number 4. That's Davis Bennett, his first personal foul, the team's second. And so again, Scott Williams worked with Coach Hardy to make sure that the women's team got an opportunity to get some of that same exposure that the men's team gets through this event. And so every year there is a girls' game. It usually happens on the last day of the event. One of the days that's hosted here at Apopka as we get a steal and a foul.
And that'll be Apopka taking out Mount Dora.
Davis Bennett is fouled on the attempt. He'll go to the line and shoot 2. The foul is called against number 24, Alessandro Ferracci. That's his first, the team's second. So yes, that'll be our opener tomorrow against Mount Dora. So that one actually is a Metro versus Florida game. There have been some occasions where we deviate from the formula, and the girls will actually play a Metro opponent, in which case we just don't count that one on the tote board. But in this case, Mount Dora actually is one of the teams that is participating elsewhere in the event on the men's side. And so it will be a Metro versus Florida game, and we will count it on the tote board.
And then the next game will be the men taking to the court.
So if you think there's a mistake in your program, read the names carefully, because yes, Apopka is on 2 consecutive games, but it's not the same team. Transition layup by Josh Zoll.
Yes, there is a W next to the teams in that first game. So 1:18 remaining, lead now up to 21.
Push is called against Joshua Zoll. That's the 3rd foul for the Rams, the 2nd for Zoll. And narrowly avoiding the backcourt, Alcantara manages to get in the air and land on the right side of the line. Off the heel for Ferracci. And finally, there it goes. 3rd chance basket for Ronaldo Alcantara. So if nothing else, the Vipers picked up some offensive rebounds for the stat book on that possession. There it is.
Drain the rain.
3 for Jaden Arsteel.
So the 3 ball gets that lead up to 22, largest of the game. It was a 12-point lead at halftime. So
and there again, like you were saying earlier, Neil, Alcantara did his work on the previous possession, and that looked like good news for the Vipers, but then sure enough, it's short-lived as the Rams come right back, and now, once again, Joshua Zoll is called down with his 4th personal foul, the team's 4th. Checking in for him will be number 2, Mike Pryor. So again, with the balanced team efforts that the Rams have going so far, it doesn't necessarily give me a lot of heartburn that Zoll is coming out of the game with 4 fouls and still a little more than a quarter left to go. There are other situations where I would be more concerned about that. But as I look at who's contributing, Zoll is a big contributor, but he also has a lot of other support going on. So I'm not too concerned about the fact that he's going to lose some minutes here based on his foul count. First shot was a clean block. Second one was not. Foul called against number 5, Ronaldo Alcantara. That's his first. The team's 3rd of this period, and it will send Jordan Houston to the line, shooting 2 for the Rams.
So thank you again for joining us on this Friday night. Thank you for spending a part of your holiday weekend with us. We hope you had an opportunity to enjoy yesterday with your friends and family. Obviously, it's more important to spend that time with friends and family than necessarily what you're eating, but of course that is part of the tradition of Thanksgiving, so we hope you had a nice meal as well. As 3 seconds remain, and now up comes Lejeune and nails it right at the buzzer. I believe that was a 2-pointer. No, it was a 3-pointer, and so
at the buzzer, Travis Lejeune scores from beyond the arc. That's 11 points for him, and it closes the lead to 58-37 with 8 minutes left to go here in Game 21 of the 11th annual, or the 14th annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge.
So still quite a ways to go with that 19-point lead, as Mark indicated, but something to build on heading into that fourth quarter if you're Lake Buena Vista. It's been a long 3 quarters, a little bit lighter.
And not as long as the scoreboard would have you believe. I don't know what happened there. That got frozen. I'm going to reboot the score graphic here and see if I can get it to resync. That's better. It was right on my screen, but at the bottom of your screen it was showing a few minutes ago. So, all right, we've got that unlocked now, and we'll have that corrected for the fourth quarter.
We appreciate your cooperation helping our staff to close the score promptly after the conclusion of tonight's game.
So we begin the fourth quarter, a 58-37 score. This is the 2024 Metro versus Florida Challenge, honoring Coach Earl Graham. And as the score indicates, Lake Mary has been in control for the majority of this game. It was 2-2, and then they ran off 6 straight points. They led by 12 at halftime, and now 19 entering this fourth quarter.
Ronaldo Alcantara is called in his second personal foul, the team's first of this period.
And as we mentioned several times, Lake Buena Vista, in only its 4th season, they were 9-17 last year, and they pretty much look like a team trying to take those baby steps, trying to establish themselves moving forward.
Shot blocked, and we're going to get a foul on the rebound.
And just want to point out, though, that 9-17 in itself.
Jordan Houston is called on his second personal foul. It's the team's first of the period.
9-17, obviously not impressive, nothing to write home about or catches your attention, but that is their best record that they had during their first 3 years. So they have made, even if it is on the smaller side, they have been making steady improvement in the one-loss record. Unfortunately, they're going against a team that's looking for a 3rd straight playoff berth, and that's my point, is it definitely has looked that way between these two teams. Doesn't get the roll, and got a tie up underneath. And yeah, give Lejeune credit.
Held ball. Possession, Vipers.
Well, and actually the Vipers came away with that. Thought it was Lake Mary ball, but give Lejeune credit. He fought for that rebound and got it. And the soft, nice touch, the floating deuce from Alcantara.
Ronaldo Alcantara gets the basket and a chance to make it a 3-point play. The Rams foul is called against number 15, Jordan Houston, his 3rd, the team's 2nd of this period.
So Lake Buena Vista, to my previous point, they've played well at times. You've seen them come up with their share of those type of plays, the positive, not only in terms of the scoreboard, but giving them something to build on, something to move forward with. But unfortunately, Lake Mary has just done it about 2 times a greater rate. And again, that's one of the other ways you can measure the difference between these two teams. A team that's looking to, still in somewhat of its infancy, trying to get to double-digit wins for the first time, compared to a team looking for a 3rd straight playoff berth. That being Lake Mary.
Touch the backboard equipment. That's the same as out of bounds. It's a team defensive rebound for the Vipers.
So Lake Buena Vista trying to break that full court defense, and Well, the defense wins that one.
Yes, well, Lejeune overthrew his intended receiver like a quarterback.
Under pressure, which is exactly what happened.
And now he redeems himself there with a nice little deflection. It stays with the Rams, though. Downtown shot from Bennett, not there. Good work under the basket by Houston. But it's not enough. Not able to get the... but then Houston acquits himself and breaks up the Viper onslaught at half court. It does stay with Lake Buena Vista, though.
6 minutes remaining. Lake Buena Vista back to work.
Rams putting on at least partial full court pressure. And they do, in fact, trigger a turnover there. You could argue about whether it was a forced turnover or not, but one way or the other, the pressure certainly contributed.
So mention Lake Buena Vista, one of 5 teams playing 2 games in this event. They played and defeated Trinity Christian Academy out of Deltona on Wednesday. The 4 other teams are, of course, Apopka is the host school, West Orange and Jones. Those are your Metro Conference teams. And then Vieira, the Florida contingency, they played earlier today and they will play tomorrow. Of course, Vieira out on the East Coast, so I assume that they're making this a weekend trip, enjoying the holiday on the road. Down low, some nice moving and passing by Lake Buena Vista, but unable to get an open shot. That was a somewhat acceptable shot.
Yeah, Lake Buena Vista having the 12-15 game on Wednesday where they defeated Trinity Christian 63-57. And, of course, Coach Scott, you know, he goes into this eyes wide open when he agrees to take on 2 games. Just like Coach Williams, you know, Coach Scott is playing the long game here. And you may or may not help your win-loss record by taking on these challenging tournament events so early in the season, but you do give your team a very clear sense of where they stand, what they're doing well, and what they need to work on, almost as an extension of the preseason classic. Foul called against Lejeune here, and that is his 3rd. And Aristeel hits his 1st.
So again, thank you for joining us on this Friday evening and spending a part of your holiday weekend with us here at Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium. Mark Barchi is the other voice. I'm Neil Fisher. Mark's also the public address announcer. And since we keep bringing up Joe A. Sterling Gymnasium, he was the coach of the 1962 Apopka Blue Darters, who won their only state championship.
Second chance basket by Ronaldo Alcantara.
And of course, this facility itself about 12 years old. Apopka, like many of the Orange County public schools before then, who were still in existence about 12 years ago, undergoing a complete rebuild. The previous buildings being torn down altogether and a new building built in the place, including this gymnasium. And also just want to take a couple minutes here, like I do at every game, to talk about Coach Earl Graham, since this event is named after him now, and we honor his legacy, what he left behind.
5 seconds under guard, Vipers ball.
So again, Coach Graham passing away the first week of January 2021, unfortunately due to COVID. And he was a longtime coach. If you follow high school basketball, even though he was never a head coach, you've probably heard of Earl Graham.
Foul called against Jaden Aristeel. That's his 1st personal foul, the team's 3rd. At the line, shooting 2, Tyrus Mosley.
Coach Graham was often the loyal right-hand man of the head coach. Often sat behind the bench, never actually on the bench. That's just the way he was, a very humble man who did not really care for the spotlight in terms of getting the attention. He got a lot of spotlight from his players, because they trusted and believed in him, but he was not somebody who necessarily felt the need for the spotlight outside of his players.
If you weren't an insider to the program, if you didn't have a student athlete playing in the program, if you didn't follow closely what was going on, you may not have ever even noticed Earl Graham sitting there quietly, usually on the second row of the bench. You may not have even known what he was doing and how critical he was.
Yeah, and that's my point about his humbleness. He was the guy who, in those early morning hours or after practice, he would work with the players relentlessly. He would often do subtle things like maybe even call up a player to make sure that he was making it to school, maybe even arranging for that player to get a ride there to the early morning practice. That's where he made his living, so to speak, and that's why the players respected him. And as I've said over and over again, he was a great developer of players. You could just see that in terms of the skill level and the quality.
Ronaldo Alcantara in transition for 2.
With each game and each year that the player played for him, but even more so, and if you ask every player, I mean, it'd probably be about 95% of the players, his bigger contribution was just helping them get ready for life and being ready to lead a successful life. That was even more important to Coach Graham. And again, I could just see that. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, which I assume is quite a few of you out there, I'm the reporter for the Apopka Chief, the local newspaper here in the northwest Orange County area. And my 2 beats are Wekiva and Apopka, and Coach Williams started the program at Wekiva when the school opened in 2007. He left 7 years later, came up here to Apopka, and Coach Graham came with Coach Williams, again serving as his loyal right-hand man. So I got a chance to spend some time with Coach Graham for the last 14 years of his life or so. And again, going back to my original point is that, yes, I saw him working with the players, but he always talked to me more about how they were progressing as young men and how they were learning the lessons he was teaching them, which would set them up for a successful life beyond high school and college.
So as we pause here for a full timeout called by the Rams, we'll remind you that the Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge bears the name of Earl Graham because of the impact that he had both at Lake Highland Prep, here at Apopka, and at many other schools in his 50-plus year career. If you have not already done so, we encourage you to download a free copy of our program at metrovsfl.com, and on page 7 you will find a tribute and a biography that will tell you more about the man and the legend who impacted so many lives of young men here in Central Florida over his 50-year career. Just a shade over 2 minutes to go here in day 3 of the 14th annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. It's hard to believe, Neil, that we've been doing this for 14 years, actually 15 years, but we took a year off because of the pandemic. There was 1 year we did not have the event, and then we have basket by Rams number 22, Jack Schulz-Perry.
The turnover. And so Lake Mary now will go back to work, although as you can see, they're not looking necessarily to score. No urgency with the 17-point lead. Again, they've controlled this game from the beginning. No dice on that tray from Schulz-Perry. And so Lake Buena Vista will go back to work. Outcome long decided, but certainly an opportunity to cut into that lead and have something to build on moving forward. Lake Buena Vista 2-0 on the season. They'll fall to 2-1. There's a traveling call.
Traveling. Rams ball. And so when we look at the tote board, as far as what that does, we were at 11-9, so we'll be at 11-10 for the Metro teams. Each of the first 2 days it was split 4-3 Metro. Today it's going to be split 3-4. And so that'll put us at 11-10, a very narrow lead being held by Metro. But if you look at the games and you look at who's playing tomorrow, it's going to be a photo finish. Of course, again, nothing other than bragging rights on the line here.
So Lake Mary off to the races again, and score the deuce.
Ruben Cortez with a transition layup for the Rams.
And so this game, the story was really, as we started out, a team in Lake Mary who was looking for a third consecutive playoff berth. So their goal is to get back to the playoffs as well as then win a game, maybe even 2.
Foul called against Rams number 22, Jack Schulz-Perry, his third, the team's 4th.
They were also district championship. And Lake Buena Vista, a team in only its 4th year, still going through growing pains of infancy. A 9-win season, and that's their best record so far, and making nice steady improvements. But again, compared to a team looking to go to the playoffs for 3 straight years, and their bigger goal is to win a couple of playoff games.
The pass is to number 20, Miles Fatkin.
Lake Buena Vista just not quite up on the same level of quality. They had stretches in which they played well, made positive plays, but Lake Mary had the more, about 2-1. And again, a 6-0 run after the score was tied 2-2 gave Lake Mary the lead for good. They upped the lead to 12 at halftime, and they finished with a 17-point victory. 63-46 is your final score. That takes us to the end of Day 3 of the 2024 Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. And now, Mark, do what you do best. Take us to the finish line.
That takes us to the end of the ball game and also to the end of Day 3 here at the Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge. We do have some hardware to hand out. And that is going to be the MVP plaque, presented in memory of Coach Earl Graham, our long-term assistant coach here at Apopka, who coached and impacted thousands of lives throughout Central Florida. You can read our tribute to Coach Graham in our digital program to learn more about this remarkable man. And we invite Owen Sainoa, the recipient of this game's Metro versus Florida Challenge MVP award. 13 points to lead the Rams to victory tonight. So once again, that takes us to a 63-46 win for Lake Mary. It means that we are now at a very razor-thin lead for the Metro teams. 11-10 is your score at the end of 3 days. But we've got 7 more games of basketball action coming your way tomorrow here from Joe Sterling Gymnasium, starting at 11 a.m., where we will have our ladies match. Apopka takes on Mount Dora, and then we'll have Apopka men's team taking on Lake Howell in the 12-15 game. So the host school will have back-to-back games to open up tomorrow's play, and we will be live streaming those on YouTube and the NFHS network as well. For those of you here in the arena, thank you so much for coming out to support your Viper and Ram athletes. And those of you online, we hope you'll subscribe before you go. We are asking at this time that our fans please exit the arena and wait for the players to emerge from the locker room from the parking lot so that our staff can prepare the facility to be closed. We appreciate your cooperation, and we look forward to seeing you again, whether it's here in person or online on YouTube and the NFHS network, for our last 7 games as we wrap up our 14th annual Earl Graham Metro versus Florida Challenge, presented by Advent Health, Burn Fat Orlando, and St. Germain Chiropractic. Please drive carefully and arrive home safely. Good night.